One of my favorite t-shirts is a t-shirt that I got from work, because who doesn't love a free t-shirt? Come on. It's my favorite not only because it was free, but mostly because of the saying that was printed on it. My head is in the cloud. In my day job, I'm a cloud computing engineer and trainer, and the t-shirt is a pun, right? Yeah, if you got that, congratulations, you're a nerd. But so am I, so we're in good company. And if you didn't get that pun, congratulations that you have a life. You'll have to tell me what that's like sometime. See, cloud computing is very technical, logical work. It is not what comes to mind when you think of this saying. My head is in the cloud is typically reserved for the daydreamers. Maybe someone who's a little bit out of touch with reality, absent-minded, impractical, lazy. But did you know that daydreaming is, in fact, just the opposite? Yeah, there's research that shows that daydreaming is productive and purposeful. It contributes to better problem-solving skills and goal-setting abilities, and I know this personally because I found my own career path through daydreaming. The daydream that really kicked it off for me started when I was in my undergrad studying computer science, and my absolute favorite thing to daydream about was dropping out of college. Now, I understand in hindsight that my dream to drop out of university was not because I was lazy or absent-minded. No. I wanted to drop out because I was constantly receiving the message that who I am wasn't really welcome on this path. And in order to succeed, I'd need to sacrifice those parts that didn't fit neatly inside the box. So I had to ask myself, okay, well, where can I go where every part of who I am will be welcome and essential? And I came to the understanding that it might be impossible to find an existing path that fits who I am and who I want to become. And so in order to get to where I need to go, I need to dream. I need to dream up a path that doesn't exist yet, one that allows me to thrive. And today, I'm asking all of you to daydream too. When life presents you with a problem or a crossroads, what would it mean for you to approach that problem without limiting yourself to the constraints of your current reality? Daydream. Daydream and then do something about it. See, the problem I was facing was that I wanted a computer science degree. I wanted to be a part of the tech industry. I just felt like there wasn't really space for me. Why did I feel that way? Every computer science class I entered in my undergrad averaged around 30 students, and I could always count the total number of students of color on one hand or less. Often, I was the only woman of color in class, or maybe one of two or three. But honestly, it was not the visible difference that marked my disdain. It was the dynamic of the classroom. It was a real challenge to develop relationships with my peers. I had plenty of classmates that wouldn't make eye contact with me, and others that just wouldn't talk to me. I would get assigned to group projects with group members who would literally ignore me if I spoke in the group or answered a question, even if my answer was right, but actually, especially if my answer was right, So I stopped talking. I retreated. You know that feeling when you crawl back into yourself because it's the safest place to be. For a time, I really did think that I could mold myself to fit this path. I overworked and exhausted myself. But no matter what, it was always a game of catch-up. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I still remember the first time I felt like my presence in tech was validated. I applied and had gotten accepted to attend an event for women of color in tech. And at that event, I landed my first internship interview for a big tech company, and it meant the world to me. I really felt like my hard work was finally starting to pay off. I got back to school, and I went to work with a group on a group project, and it came up that one of my group mates was also interviewing for the same company. I mentioned my interview, and they stopped and said, "Well, how did you get that?" I told them about the event for women of color in tech, and they quickly interjected and said, "Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense." That interaction, and if I'm being honest, a majority of the interactions that I had with my peers at the time stuck with me for too long. It's like when a voice gets in your head and it just won't ease up. I don't fit the standard profile of a good computer science candidate, so why would they want me? Maybe they really did just have a quota to fill, and I happened to be in the right space at the right time. Maybe I didn't deserve this opportunity. Let me tell you, when that interview came, that is exactly how I acted. To say I failed that interview would be to take it very, very lightly. And I can laugh about it now, but in all honesty, at the time, I was crushed. I thought that my path here was really over. And the only thing that kept me going were my daydreams. They reminded me that I felt like I had something to contribute here. So if I felt that way, why was that not enough? Why was this the reality of the situation? I mean, come on, look around. Everyone uses tech. Why are there not more students of color entering the computer science classroom? In this country, less than half of K through 12 public schools offer any meaningful computer science curriculum that includes programming. And if we isolate that just to high schools, 43.5% of US public high schools do not offer any computer science education to their students, with Black, Latinx, and Indigenous student communities having the least amount of access, particularly those from lower income backgrounds and rural areas. So how does this equity issue in education translate to the industry? In 2023, 62% of the US tech industry is comprised of white Americans. And that representation gap is not getting any smaller. In a study conducted by Deutsche Bank and led by global technology strategist Apchit Walia, the findings highlighted a glaring problem that Black and Latinx communities could be shut out or underprepared for 86% of tech-centered jobs in the US by 2045. Every decision that goes into the development of technology is made by one person or a team of people. And it is a privilege to have the position to influence the technology that millions or billions of people use every single day. There's also a lot of weight to that job and responsibility to humanity. Now, remember, I'm in tech, so I'm kind of obligated to mention artificial intelligence at least once today, so bear with me. One of the most serious ethical issues that we are facing is the creation of AI models that exhibit discriminatory and biased results. An investigation by the Markup found that an AI model which is used to screen applicants for home loan approval we're more likely to deny home loans to people of color than to white people with the exact same financial characteristics. And that's just one sector. What about education? AI models that are used to screen and greenlight college and job applications exhibit racial bias. Healthcare. AI models that are used to determine a patient's eligibility to receive a donor organ exhibit racial bias. That's just the beginning. The fact of the matter is that we live within systems of privilege and oppression, and daydreaming in itself is a privilege. My own unearned privileges as an able-bodied, cisgendered, English as a first language US citizen have no doubt contributed to my freedom to dream. And as I've progressed on my path, I have seen my personal privilege grow. As we gain, it becomes our responsibility to give, to make space, and to lift weight so that others can also thrive. Throughout my undergrad, I was surprised to find out that some of my classmates had been learning computer science concepts since they were like 6 or 7 years old, right? Some of them had parents in industry who had taught them. Others attended private schools or after-school programs. But there seemed to be a gap in public education and free resources. And that's where I found my lane. See, as a product of the American public school system, I have firsthand experience of what is offered and what is lacking. I also have firsthand experience of computer science education, and as a student who came into their program with literally no existing computer science knowledge, I got really good at taking complex concepts and breaking them down to something that a 6-year-old could understand. So I developed an unconventional senior project. I partnered with a local Title I elementary school to introduce their students to programming. I did this through an interactive, play-based activity where students got to learn how to program by coding a robot's path through an obstacle course. The program was a hit, so much so that the university adopted it as an official program, and now students from my undergrad continue to provide computer science education to local Title I elementary schools and expand on the lessons that I created. I took my daydreams with me when I started my first full-time job in tech. I began connecting with local community leaders and educators, and I just offered my time to interact with their students on anything and everything regarding technology. I began hosting student trips on my work campus to give them a behind-the-scenes peek at some of the groundbreaking tech we get to work with every day. I've hosted and participated on panels to speak with students of color on how they can chart their own paths into technology. And I've led in-class workshops on topics such as introduction to programming, artificial intelligence, career pathways, and more to students as young as 6 years old and beyond. When I started this work in 2018, I was partnered with one school hoping to provide a couple hours of computer science education to a few 5th grade classes. And in the last 6 years, my work has expanded to support over 10 public schools, community colleges, and community organizations across 2 states to provide free computer science education to over 600 students. And in 2023, I officially founded Evo Learning Academy in hopes to see this dream continue to grow. So what is the purpose in daydreaming? What's the hope for all of this? Humor me with one more story. At the end of one of the student trips I hosted on my work campus, I was saying goodbye to the students as they got on their bus to leave, and one of the kids ran up to me and was like, no, we can't leave yet. We haven't had enough time. There's still so much more to do. And their friend came up and they were like, it's okay, it's okay. We're coming back here. That is the purpose, and it's all I could hope for. In my dreams, I hope that all students see themselves and their ideas as welcome, wanted, and required. I hope that all students are inspired to dream beyond the realities that they exist in. And I hope that they are empowered to create the futures that they dream of. And I hope the same for each and every one of you. Genuinely, I do. I hope that you are open and honest to your wildest dreams. Don't judge them, but do question them. Ask yourself why. Why is it out of reach? And what is one step you can take to bring it that much closer? As you make space for your dreams to thrive, you also make space for others to do the same. So please do remember to keep your head in the clouds, because today's daydreams are tomorrow's reality. Thank you.